Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and today I'm doing another round of One Deck Gone Wild with the Terreau de Paysages intérieurs. I will eventually pronounce that properly, but it's the Tarot of the Interior Landscapes by Camille. I'll put her Instagram below where you can see more of the cards and everything. It's so cool. It doesn't come with a guidebook or anything, just this one card, and everything else is intuition, which is fine. And I got it just in time for winter, because winter has been bizarrely delayed this year. So yeah, very excited to use this. And so the first question, and I'm not answering all the questions as usual, the first question is, why did you pick this deck? And this seems to be a new tradition for me, that I do some of these questions with some of my new decks. So that's that. Number 3 is, what card reminds you to relax when it comes up? And that is the Star. I'll zoom in here and maybe that'll work better, because it's not like I've ever done this before. Ha! You wouldn't know it. This, it just has a cozy, hole in the earth, like a womb-like feel, or a hobbit hole-like feel, or something. I don't know. There's just something I find relaxing about that card. And yeah, I might not have a lot to say for some of these, because it is so incredibly just intuitive and not logical at all. Number 4. Your favorite representation of the color blue. Now, there's not a lot of color in this, at least not a lot of bright ones. There are a lot of subtle colors. But these two, get that out of the way, have this sort of dark blue-gray. And this one's got, I think, a bit of green in it. I don't know if that's showing up on camera. We'll see. Yeah, sort of. Okay. Yeah, that's, I think, accurate. Yeah, those would be the ones that I enjoy. They're just, there's a depth of the colors that are here. There's not a lot of color, but there's a lot to it. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. Maybe I'm talking nonsense. Number 5 is your favorite representation of whichever card. So I've got 3 of them. One of them is the 3 of Swords, which is usually my least favorite representation, when it's just the stereotypical Rider-Waite heart with 3 swords in it. At which point I tend to think, oh, just a little more imagination, people, come on. But maybe that's not very generous of me. But this one I really like, because I first saw it on Fairlight Tarot's channel, and to her this was somebody who was sort of walking themselves around, digging themselves into a hole by ruminating on something too much. Which works for me. I really like that. The sort of, we cause our own grief via our own minds issue, which is a little bit Buddhist, but with the idea that all suffering is caused by attachments in our mind. And yeah, I like that. One sword is also pointing away, which I haven't decided what that means to me yet, but yeah, this interpretation I do like. I also really like the Hermit, with this yellow, greenish yellow something, light, air, breeze, whatever, coming out of their chest. It's because they've cloistered themselves away somewhere, so they're isolated, but there's nothing happening internally. There's quite a lot happening, and then I think through being in some sort of solitude for a while, then they're able to give more from themselves afterwards. That's my take on that. Anyway, and this one I like. This is the 9 of Swords, and I like it mostly because there seems to be a sunrise in the background, so there's a lot that this figure is dealing with, and it's not pleasant, but also it's nearly morning, so I enjoy that. All right, number 7. Which card shifts your perspective? And so this is one. This is the 5 of Wands. And so instead of some sort of fighting competition situation, it seems to me more like maybe a truce, that they're at rest in some way, which is interesting to me. And this is the 4 of Cups. And this also answers question number 9, which is which card reminds you the most of heartbreak? Because I feel like this figure is heartbroken. But it also looks like they've gone inside the earth to heal, or they've gone inside themselves to heal, or some combination of the two. And so I thought that was an interesting take on that particular card. All right. Number 11. If you made this deck a meal, what would it be? Definitely something French and rural. I have a few French cookbooks, mostly Julia Child, but this one, if I zoom back out for a second, is Elizabeth David's French Provincial Cooking. This is from, I think, the 80s. Is this from the 80s? No, 70s. First published in 1960, and this copy was published in 1970. And there are a couple of recipes in here. One is an onion pie, Provençal onion pie called pissolatière. I've never heard that word before. And then the other is champignons à la crème, mushrooms with cream. And either of those seemed like they'd be appropriate for this, that they'd be something this deck would like. What is this deck's favorite book? And I don't have a book exactly. Well, I do have a book, but I don't have a book. One second. Something poetic is what I'm trying badly to say that it would like. And so I have this book of Coleridge's works because I'm reading a little bit out of it these days. And I haven't found anything. I found a couple things I thought might be close. There's a poem about France. There's a poem about the English countryside. There's a poem called Alice de Clos. Alice du Clos. Something like that. My French pronunciation is always abysmal. But none of them quite fit this deck. But I didn't have time to find something that fit. But something along those lines. If you were to travel anywhere with this deck, where would you take it? And I would say probably the north, like Tundra North, with the wide open spaces and everything, like north of the Boreal Forest, north. Number 15, something you would change about this deck. Not very much. I would like a guidebook with not the usual like tarot, whatever, this card means this card means that. But anytime I have a sort of abstract deck, I always enjoy when they include any sort of descriptions of artistic choices. And I'm not really sure what that would involve in this case, because it's so very abstract. But yeah, if there was one thing I could change, that would be it. Number 16, which card would you hang in whichever room of the house? And that would be one of these two. So this is the 6 of Cups. And I just try and zoom in on this. I need to focus on it like that. It's just so beautiful, so evocative. And being from Saskatchewan in the winter, I feel like I know what that feels like. And then this is the other one. This is the 8 of Pentacles. And it just feels like there's like whatever was unknown but growing under the earth And the Seven of Pentacles is now, you can now start to see some of the results of that, which I think is quite interesting. All right, number 31. Which card in this deck do you feel most represents you right now? And so I think, I don't think I've ever pulled the Chariot for this question before, but I think the Chariot, because of these two, it seems to me, and this is all so subjective, especially with a deck like this, but that's kind of the point, that there are a couple of masks that have been taken off as this person rides off. And as a person who has always been autistic but didn't always know they were autistic and just thought they were weird and couldn't function in normal situations, I can relate. So that feels a bit like me. And then for some reason, I don't know, because there's a lot going on in my let's say internal life at the moment. The Eight of Swords feels like it represents me a little bit at the moment. 33, which card in this deck makes you laugh? Now, I don't think this is a deck that's filled with laughter. However, this Page of Swords does make me smile. There's something about the gait here of this figure and whatever it is that they're swinging around that makes me smile. It feels a little bit, I don't know, lighthearted or free or something. Number 34. Which card makes you feel calm or seen or emotional? And this card, this is the Wheel of Fortune, I would say makes me feel, which side is the light better on? I can't even tell anymore. It's getting dark, so I'll hurry. The Wheel of Fortune, somehow because of the curved lines that aren't usually there, and the sort of, I don't know, there's something in the cyclical nature of this card that makes me feel slightly optimistic, which, you know, I'll take in the world these days because it's brutal out there. Number 36. What is the outlier card of this deck? And I think that's the Ace of Pentacles, just because it's one of the only cards that's not a landscape, and it's just so much darker with such a bright foregrounded circle in this case, not figure, that it doesn't feel necessarily out of place. It just feels like the outlier. All right, and going back to 35, which will be my last question before I lose the light completely, which is, what is this deck's favorite tarot deck? And I didn't pick a tarot deck. I picked the Death Doula Oracle. Because, now, I might have to film this part tomorrow, but we'll see if enough can be seen. Because they just seem to speak to each other. I saw this pairing for the first time also on Fairlight Tarot's channel, and it's brilliant. I love it. I got actually both of these decks because I saw them there. So thank you to her for my bank account being a little bit smaller now. But these two just seem to communicate. They're visually extremely different, although tonally maybe not, but visually, I mean, quite different styles. But in the messages and in how they make me feel, I think they go together beautifully. The Eight of Wands and Beauty and Death. Yeah, that's lovely. And sometimes there are some color combinations that work really quite well. Sometimes less well, but the energy is what really, there's a depth to both of these. And of course they're both abstract in their own ways, very different ways, but they allow you to dive into this and conjure whatever speaks to you. Queen of Wands, and Angel of Incidents. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's the end of the questions here. Don't really have anything else to add other than I will be using these this month. Ooh, Five of Pentacles and Serenity. That's interesting. Curious. And we'll see how it goes. Maybe in January I will report back. This is a very slippy deck too. Very slippy. Which presumably means it will shuffle fairly well. If I don't send the cards flying everywhere, which I've done once already. But I haven't even shuffled them yet. And I've already sent the cards flying. So on that hopeful note, that's all for now. And I'll see you next time.